Hi there, I'm Glenn Skidmore and I make maple syrup. So here we have our pan set into the evaporator. This pan is specifically designed so that if I ever get a boil over towards the end of bringing the sap down into syrup, the chamfered edges redirect that boiling overflow back into the center of the pan. A lot of people put a small little piece of, or hang a little piece of pork fat, or they have a stick laying across that has butter on it. You can visit 100 different maple syrup operations, and everybody does something a little bit different. All I do is pay attention. You have to concentrate and stay right beside the evaporator when you're boiling down towards the end when it's becoming syrup, and that saves your product. There's some syrup or some sap in here right now. There's a couple inches. I'm going to add a little bit more. It's recessed into the evaporator to maximize the heat distribution at the bottom of the pan. I've got it leveled with bricks on handles, and I have a preheater pan at the back. We'll have a look at that in a few minutes. And I have to check the depth of this now with my graduated sap. This helps remove the niter and foam out of here, but I like it just below this line. You can see the line along there. I'm going to add a little bit more sap into this evaporator pan. We have to protect the pan. The pan is expensive. There we go. Now we'll check the level. Perfect. Just short of 3 inches, and that's what I like in there. Now in my preheater pan, I've got to add a little bit to keep it level. This preheats the sap and brings it to a boiling temperature, and then I transfer it into the larger pan, and I won't lose my boil on the large pan. So now we're going to light the evaporator, and now a little power, and we're going to put it into the wood. I can actually start to smell a little bit of residual maple syrup that's been here and there. You can smell the odor actually from the wood as well. It's delicious. Okay, now I'm feeling the temperature. I'm going to shut it off and just give it a little close like that for now. As you can see, we're starting to get a little steam from the pan already. So I will be boiling 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Through the day, 16 hours, I can get around or just short of 2 gallons of syrup in 1 day's boil. So there's a cycle that you commit to when you're doing this. There's actually a true cycle when you're boiling off sap. You want to maintain that boil. I can't stress that enough. So every 15, 17 minutes there's a transfer that goes on from preheater pan into this pan, and about every 10 minutes I have to add wood split to the size of my wrist into the evaporator to keep this boil going constantly. Then I have to split wood. Then I have to go and collect sap. So it keeps you busy. It's a lot of fun. All right, my preheater pan is starting to boil, and it's boiling over a little, giving me the signal. I'm going to take off this foam out of here. There's no sense in putting it in the big pan. Perfect. And now 12 scoops from preheater into the evaporator. We don't worry about a little bit of spillage here and there. I think it's part of the recipe. Where we get a little bit of that caramelized edge in the pan when it consistently boils over the edge time after time after time. I think it adds a little subtle flavor. There we go. Now nice and quick, I add, there we go. I fill this pan. I don't want the edges to burn, so we have to be fairly quick with this. Right up to the edge. Perfect. Yeah, the exact amount in that pail. Nice. And that's one cycle. So we're skimming a little bit of the residue that's left on the top. This helps when we filter. Everything we can take out of here with our spatula makes a great difference. So I'm not necessarily stirring this medium. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to get out anything that's going to plug up our filter system. But you'll see there'll be a lot of niter in the filter. So see the detritus that we're pulling out of here. This is every little bit helps at this stage of the game. And it's also enjoyable standing in the steam, and the odor is making my mouth water. It's absolutely delicious. This is my favorite stage of making maple syrup, besides tapping the trees and going out into the forest and spending a day snowshoeing and having a lot of fun. And fixing lines that have been chewed by the deer. Every once in a while we have a little squirrel problem. There's not much you can do about that, but when you tap, you check your lines and fix anything that has to be fixed, and make sure you do everything thoroughly and slowly, and that's a lot of fun. If we're doing buckets, make sure your buckets are clean as could be, and as you saw when we were tapping, picking the right tree makes a big difference. What we're doing now is making sure that we're staying by the pan, and as the medium in the pan is beginning to become shallower and shallower, it's more apt to have a boil over. So the sugars are increasing, the amount of bricks is increasing. We want to reach 66% eventually. That's commercial marketable grade syrup, but I like to take it off the pan at about 60%, so that's pretty close, and that's when a boil over happens. So bricks is the amount of sugar in the fluid, in this growing medium. So it's basically sugar and water that's in here now, but the sugar is building and the water is depleting. So I'm going to get a refractometer now, and we're going to take a look and see what the bricks content is of this, and then I'll know how much longer it's going to take. If you listen to the first word in the description of this little mechanism, refraction. Light refracts at different angles depending on what the content of sugar is. So the stronger angle with more sugar, the refractometer is going to adjust to that. So putting it on the prism, just like that. Close the lid, make a nice tight seal. I'm pushing down, see what happens. When I push down on it, it makes this nice seal, and you want to have that nice seal on that to spread out the sap. And what I'm looking for to get is about 60 to 62, and I'm at 52. So just several more minutes and we're going to be there. You can tell there's still lots of water coming off of here. As long as I'm removing water out of this medium, then I'm making syrup. And what I'll do now is grab my seahorse, and I'm going to stand here for a couple of minutes just in case. I don't want to get a boil over, but I've got a hot enough fire in there. We're very close, and I'm only down to, let's check that, what our depth is. or 2 inches. So we're still a fair distance away. What I know from the experience with this pan is that once I get down to 1 inch, that's when things get a little tense, you could call it. But being experienced with this now and making medal winning syrup out of this operation, I'm quite comfortable with what's going on. I'm not too worried about it. I just like to make sure I pay attention to this and really don't go anywhere. I've got a hot fire, stick around. I'm going to check my syrup that's in the pan, or sap that's turning the syrup. Cool this off. I can see it thickening. We're getting a little sheeting now out of the spoon. That means we're close, almost sheeting. Put a little bit more. Yeah, we're reading 64. So it's time. What I'm going to do now, we'll see how much we have in here, just short of 1 inch. We're going to kill the boil. And how we kill the boil is we're going to throw some snow in here. So we get a little snow on our scoop and give it a toss. Completely deadened the fire, cooled it right down. Now the safety margins are increased. There's no risk of burning myself, but now what I want to do is take the pan and give it a little tilt and turn it on top of the evaporator so that I can handle it to remove the syrup out of here and put it in a filter bucket.